Hello, folks. We're going to start off this week with a couple of comments from our loyal listeners. Jamie says, always a great show, lads. I rarely agree, but I love yous both. Crack on. Nice. But Adrian says, literally the worst show ever. Couple of clowns. There we go. A mixed bag to start us off. Welcome to Game On. But these clowns are always going for the jugular. How you doing, Graeme? You all right?
Yeah, brilliant. Really good.
The sun is shining. Everyone's happy, aren't they?
Yeah.
Listen, we know the drill by now. We're going to be tackling the big Scottish sporting issues and beyond up against the clock. So we're going to crack on straight away. Biggest story of the week and Rangers manager latest. David Ancelotti's name popped up. Obviously, his famous dad, Carlo, who I happen to call Carlos at a press conference a few years ago, much to my embarrassment in front of the world media.
Did you get a raised eyebrow?
No, but I got a great answer in fairness, and answer even though I got his name wrong. But this is the name that's been lots of Rangers fans all week. It's a moving story, obviously. Things can change, and it might be that it's not quite happening, it might be happening. But what do you make of it? Seems to be one that's dividing opinion. What do you think about it, Graeme?
Yeah, well, Carlos, obviously the godfather.
Carlos,
yep. And they always say, what's the line? Just when thought they were out, I think it's just when he thought he was in. He's now could be headed to Brazil. This is obviously an evolving story, but I think it's the interesting bit to me this week with David Ancelotti is where Rangers are as a club. So if it had been years of titles and on and off, but the dominance of Celtic, any kind of appointment that's not box office like, maybe the tried and tested Gerrard or a name like Mourinho scares Rangers fans in any form. Someone, maybe Sean Dyche is too traditional, or someone like David Ancelotti's a bit of a wild card. But I think his CV stacks up in the sense he's a coach of substance. If that translates itself to a manager, it's a huge risk. I think there's a safety element to the fact that he seems to be rated within the 49ers. Kevin Thelwell in the past, that the guy who maybe understands that type of appointment could work, but there's mammoth risks attached with it, and I think it might be good news for Rangers if Brazil and Carlo Ancelotti says to come on, Davide, come and join and try and win the World Cup over there.
Yeah.
How do you think it's played out?
Yeah, I think there's been some jiggery pokery going on as well, and I think there's a lot of managers linked with this job and a lot of interest in the job, and he's one of them. I think Rangers would be remiss not to kind of consider him if he's been thrown in their path to consider. Would he have the kind of jobs he's had if it wasn't for his old man? Probably not. Let's be honest. But people you speak to seem to think he's a coach of some merit. Can't hurt having probably the best manager of all time is his old man. I mean, unfortunately, my dad was a coalman, so and he's hopeless at golf. So I picked up some of his traits. I'm always digging myself into holes, and I'm rubbish at golf.
Do you think with Carlo Ancelotti, as much as he's helping his son out with the opportunity he's had, do you think he'd give him such a remit? He seems to have a very important role within the setup of that do very well. Do you think that would be the case if he didn't have something about him?
No, I think good players would have seen through him if he was hopeless. So I think, yeah, I think it's too big a gamble for Rangers at this point in time. I think you're right. I think Rangers need to have a bit more. It's a job, a tough job. It needs somebody with a bit of clout in there. And I don't think that a family name is just going to cut it in terms of clout. I think you need someone who's managed club before and we can steer Rangers through this next stage because it's going to be a tough job. But listen, we'll see how that goes. We'll jump across the city. The transfer window is not open yet. Obviously, we've still got the last game of the season and the cup final to come. But we're already kind of talking about transfers, and Celtic are talking about Brendan Rodgers this week saying he wants at least 2 or 3 if nobody leaves. But who do you think would be a good Celtic sign for in this summer?
So I'm talking to one Michael with reddish hair. I wonder if another Michael with reddish hair.
Tahitian Sunset.
Oh, sorry, apologies.
Sorry.
Maybe the Michael with red hair at Celtic Park might take me on. Let's find out. But I would say, thinking about this, there's a player I think that fits what Celtic are looking to do. Now we know that they like players under 24 that can sell on, but in the summer that Kieran Tierney's coming home, there's another player I think free agent for down south, Burnley, Josh Brownhill, who I just look at it and go, if Hatate does move on, he is that third midfielder par excellence. Honestly, he really could cut it. He's been excellent for Burnley. This has been his breakthrough season in terms of goals. He's 18, but his all-round play for years he's been a player who.
What are we talking about value? But I
Well, he's a free agent. That's the selling point. So that's the selling point on him.
That's the selling point. So it'd be a lot interesting, I imagine.
100%, and that's working for. If it's working for Real Madrid every summer, picking off a couple of free agents, paying obviously sizable wages comparable to club. I think he seems the type of player that would fit the way Rodgers plays as well. Very versatile. Can play 2 or 3 different positions in midfield and likes a goal. And he's been linked with those lower half teams, Premier League, Everton especially. Well, I think Dave Moyes might make them a top half team. But I think that there is a selling point for guys like that who are career English League players, both Premier League and Championship. The Champions League with Celtic, if they get through playoffs, I think it's a huge carrot, and I think he's the type of player, age, ability, and what he could achieve would be, on a 2-3 year deal, would be just a ticket for Celtic.
I agree. I think wages in that market are difficult to. I think you'd be kind of shocked to learn what we'd be on at Burnley, which it might be a factor in this next one as well. I look at some of the names in the January window are still bouncing around. I mean, we're talking January about David Strelic, the Bratislava striker. That still won't go away, that talk as well. Big strong striker, he's still scoring goals. I mean, he was banging them in the first half of the season. That big link. I think he's heart set on coming to Celtic in January. Didn't quite work out in terms of the cost. But he kept his head down. He's still banging the goals. I think it's interesting. That's an interesting one. I think something that's neither striker, Kyogo. I think that's a guy out of favour at Rennes. I mean, there's a current model of bringing back old players and getting back in a free. I made 10 million in January. I think so. Need a wide player, maybe a loan wide player, because obviously Jota's out till January. But it'll be interesting. You know, listen, Celtic I've got a way of digging out these guys that you might not have heard of, and can surprise you. So yeah, that'll be interesting. But obviously they've got the cup final and to deal with first of all.
So talking about the cup final, Aberdeen are up for Celtic there, and their manager, who's had a hell of a week. And both of you have watched Aberdeen in person. I was at Ibrox on Sunday, watched them up close. You were at Pittodrie midweek. Jimmy Thelin. I put Slipping Jimmy for any Better Call Saul fans who remember the reference. All 5 is out there who might get it. But what do you think of Jimmy Thelin? Is it time to worry about him as a manager? Time to worry about Aberdeen? And what about Dave Cormack, who has put all his eggs in the one basket on this guy? The whole club's been modelled around a manager who should, or is the plan is to succeed. Yeah. Is it time to worry?
I think there are some alarm bells going off at Pittodrie. When I was the other night and they were woeful against Celtic. Celtic played really well, but Aberdeen were terrible. And you look at the money spent up there. I mean, if they finish fourth, get a cup final, I think on paper that's a good season, especially where they came from. It's a solid enough season. But the overall record, I mean, that start of the season was so spectacular, but the wheels come off so spectacular as well. And you look at the record now, I think it's on a par with Barry Robson. In terms of win rate over a longer period. So we're at a moment that's a kind of sticker twist moment for Aberdeen. I mean, I think I don't have much hope for them in the cup final. I mean, I must admit, Celtic have put 19 past them this season, and their second string won 5-1 during the week. So I mean, it would take a miracle to win the cup. So you're looking, and they've got Dun United away, the final game of the season. They could slip to fifth place and get thumped in the cup final. Is that a great season? It's probably a par season at best, at very best. And the money they spent, is par good enough? I don't think so. I don't think it's a case of see you, Jimmy. I think it's going to be a case of we'll start the season, see how it goes on, but he's going to have an impact the second season. This is meant to be a 2-3 year project at Pittodrie, so I think they have to give him time. And there has been signs that he's been good, but what worries me is defensively this year they've been so bad since November. They've got less points since November than St Johnstone. So if that's going to continue, they're going to be a big bother. I mean, look at the other night, 3 of the 4 back 4, 3 of the back 5, 3 or 4 of the back 5 were signings, were Thelin signings. So he hasn't managed to show up at defence. They're so leaky. So I have got concerns about Thelin. I'm starting to lose a wee bit of faith in him in terms of the bigger picture, because I don't see the progress that they need to. I mean, at the start of the season, it was so good. I think it was never going to maintain that. But since then, I don't see enough, really, and it's going to take a lot over the summer. Again, do you back him? I think they have to, but he's going to have a good start to the season next season. Otherwise, there'll be serious questions asked, because at the moment, Aberdeen are too easy to beat.
Adolph Matame here, see Jimmy reference.
I like that one, yeah.
Very, very good. And I agree with you. They're a weirdly passive team
Mm-hmm.
who somehow can get cut open. They sit in, but they somehow are always caught in the break.
Aye.
And there's major alarm bells.
They always look surprised.
Exactly.
I actually think they always look surprised that like
nothing's consistent.
yeah,
games
yeah.
don't
They're good in
flow.
the break. They're good in the break, but they're not consistent enough. Yeah, that's true. In terms of Celtic, I mean, I said there a minute ago that the second string, you don't really have a second string as such. Celtic. I mean, I think that team that put out at Pataudry had the 9 guys had been capped by their countries, and 2 guys, the other 2 under 21 internationals. So they're a strong enough team, even though it was Celtic's kind of backup guys. But Johnny Kenny was one of the guys, got his first start, and he got his goal. What did you make of the question here? Is Brendan Rodgers is effusive in his praise. I need to look at these words up here. I mean, he was nice about him, wasn't he? He was
very kind.
He was nice about him, man.
I know that was me.
We don't use big words in this show, Graeme. Come on.
So,
but listen, has he got a role to play next season?
Yes, really strong in this one, and I think it's because Brendan Rodgers, when he speaks, you listen, especially the way he spoke about Johnny Kenny and what he likes about him. I think that the first month coming back from Shamrock Rovers, which was a brilliant loan spell, worked really well. Was about settling back in, but I think he really rates his movement, his temperament, what he brings to Celtic, and this whole idea of they need a Kyogo, a new striker. This could be the way to mitigate that, in the sense if it is the money goes on a winger, say it's withdraw it out as well. You still get Ida, potentially Kenny if you can fill that role, but that role's is there to be filled by someone like Johnny Kenny. If Daiz Maeda stays, signs a new deal, and takes off again next season, you want players like Johnny Kenny to be in position to impact games. And I thought he was really good the other night. I thought his movement was good. His header was perfect, and then he just you can tell as well at full time his teammates were pleased for him. And I think he's got a nice nature about the way he spoke after the game. I think he seems the type of player that would fit that role really well and probably solve Celtic a few problems. Maybe I'm overstating it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be done. I think he's still quite raw. I think took his goal really well. I thought it was some other parts of the game I thought were a wee bit raggedy. I think if you're playing up front for Celtic in that kind of performance, you're going to get chances as well. So, but I think when like you say, Rodgers, he sees something in the kid that he can work with. Is he going to be that third striker for Celtic next season? I don't think so. I think they will go and buy another striker because then they'll have Ida, another. I think they'll maybe go big on a top line, a top class striker, and you get Maeda who can slot in there as well. If they buy another winger, he can play both roles. So I find it difficult to see how he's going to have a bigger impact next year in terms of game time. He's only played, I think he only played 17 minutes until he started the other night. But listen, fair play to him. I wouldn't be surprised seeing maybe another loan deal higher up the chain. I think I'd be maybe thinking sending him to the English Championship or something like that, or even a fellow team in Scotland, just to get him the game time. I think maybe down the line he might be a player for Celtic, but I don't see it being next year his big breakout year.
You need to remember the caveat there is I've spent all the wages on Josh Brownhill anyway, so I was just trying to.
So the budget's burst, so they need them, right? That's fair enough. Well, we're talking about spending dough. Rangers, the 49ers are coming. The big money. They're going. Listen, the richest club in Europe coming soon. $9 billion are worth the 49ers apparently. So the cash is going to get splashed. Maybe we don't know. But it's one of the things on the list for the Rangers' new owners is increasing the size of Ibrox. I mean, I know it's maybe not the right time because obviously the last few weeks has not been packed out because of the way the season's gone, but we know the demand's there. They've got this manager's waiting list that's got 18,000 on it. It's a time to think about getting Ibrox bigger. Yes, and the answer for Patrick Stewart at the fan forum was interesting, where he had to be non-committal on an extension to Ibrox for the reason that the 49ers haven't taken power, but there's just a perfect test case. Leeds United, 26,000 on their waiting list. Yeah. The new stadium blueprint is out, and I think that's big for the 49ers. They've just, in their world, in their sphere, NFL, they built Santa Clara 49ers Stadium, mega stadium, but they got absolute panned for this because where they've moved it to, and it's outside San Francisco, and that's been the big criticism, that people are travelling, so they've probably been chastened by that. Now they've got this template. Leeds are staying in situ, and the designs, the plans for that is very much modernising, and the word that Parag Marathi used in the letter to Leeds Council was it's an iconic arena and we're modernising it, and I think that's a template. So what give me numbers, what do we think in terms of numbers? 60,001 to beat Celtic, probably. That's how it probably works. I mean I think people want 60. Listen, the same as Celtic, they say we'll get there's a 10,000 Celtic waiting list as well. Get it to 70, 80,000. The problem is that the Celtic and Rangers is it's a supply and demand. These clubs are built on the money comes in from season book money, right? So if you make Celtic Park and Ibrox 80,000, right, you're not going to get 80,000 every week. But what you do is the danger is that you then create supply that outstrips demand. And then what you might find is fans might think, you know what, I'm not going to pay my £800 for a season book. I'll just pick and choose my games because there's plenty of seats. And that's what Celtic cannot afford to do. They need to have that demand. They need to fill that out before a ball's kicked because they need that season ticket money indoor in June, July to fund the transfer market, the wages for the rest of the season. So I don't think there's a sweet spot. I think Celtic are already in it now. I don't think Celtic are thinking about. It's always the thing about Celtic expanding. I think Rangers could do with 10,000 more seats because that would get them £3 or £4 million a year over the longer term, and I think they would fill that. It's when you go beyond that, if you go 70, 80, which, listen, on a given day, you could fill it.
Yep.
No bother. On a non-given day against Ross County, St Johnstone, Livingston, and in the league games, you're not going to fill it. And that's where the problem comes. People might think, you know what, I'm not buying a season ticket because I'm going to go and pick and choose my games. And that's the nightmare scenario for Rangers and Celtic. So they need to find that sweet spot. I think if they can get 10,000 more in Ibrox, then go for it. Whether they can do it or not, who knows? But worth a bash.
In a city of one-upmanship as well, there's a general acceptance for Rangers fans that, but out with the stadium capacity increasing, there's mod cons that need fixed as well.
Yeah,
and I think 49ers, it's an easy win. They go in and do the small things right, and then build up to that.
But not another start a season at Camden again. Don't need that again.
No. They'll stay. I think they'll definitely stay in situ.
Yeah.
So it's party time for Celtic tomorrow, and that means the weather, the way it's been, it'd be party time anyway. A trophy lift, and then march towards the Tron Gate in a party. Celtic, is it time for the authorities to step in and end these after season?
Well, they have. I think they have come out and said, "Don't do it. Please don't have these parties."
Are they right to do that?
Listen, I think so because I think football fans and fans in general need to remember they're not the be all and end all, right? We are all consumed by sport and football and all that stuff, and we forget that there's folk out doing their shopping and all that stuff, and tourists coming to the city. There's buses going around and all that stuff, and people want their work. I think what the Glasgow City Council and the clubs need to do is have a better framework for these kind of things. I think they should have fan parks organised with proper bins, proper security, and all this kind of stuff, properly organised. I think that would be better anyway. I think it would be better than these impromptu, but not impromptu, they're planned impromptu parties that happen and end up with the streets a mess and costing money to clean them all up. Because they're not properly stewarded, they're not properly, there's no particular waste provisions made. People put lit on the bins, so it ends up a bit of a mess, and it causes a bit of friction. And listen, I know there's other things that happen in the city that upset people in terms of demonstrations and marches and all that stuff. And you think you have to allow people to do it's civil liberties. You can do what you like, basically. But these big, huge gatherings can cause more problems than they're worth, really. I would just like to see them more formalised. We've got plenty of space. Glasgow's got more parks than any city in Britain. Have a fan park. You could put bands on. You could have a proper day. Do it properly. I just think that the city centre thing is it's a relatively new phenomenon as well. This didn't happen 20, 30 years ago, really. So it's a relatively new thing. I just think that it's too hard to manage, and it ends up with too much bother. So I think they need to try and find a way of doing it properly.
No, that's fair. And I think there's a bit of blowback within the Celtic community as well. And since there's some fans that are saying they enjoyed it more, they liked the spontaneity of the early ones.
Yeah.
But now there is that element where people are planning, maybe, and being brutally honest, aren't real football fans.
Yeah.
Using it as a day to come down, get on it, and then maybe cause a bit of problems. I think that's the way. I think the plan with a park or something to really gather, I think that would be pretty trend setting and the way to go. And then it's a template for any team. Hopefully it's all over Scotland where teams get the opportunity to celebrate big wins over the years.
Yeah, I think so. And listen, we know Glasgow's the environment in Glasgow, it's a bit different, isn't it? It's it can be a wee bit kind of feisty at times. So we have to be careful. Talking about feisty, we're into the final weekend of the season. I think so. Most of that dusted towards the top end, obviously, but the bottom end is where the pressure really is. St Johnstone, so long, St Johnstone. 16
Simo's
years.
He's a gent, isn't he, Simo? He's
yeah,
a good guy.
It's sad to see St Johnstone go, I think. But Who could join them and who could come up? Because obviously now we're looking at this relegation playoff and the championship playoff. So who's going to be the ones that are going to be making it next year?
Well, Dundee seem cussed at this point after the shenanigans of midweek. That was tough to take. I thought Tony Docherty did pretty well to keep it together. Ross County are on such a downward spiral that it feels, up until the other night, that they look like
with 7 defeats in the bounce for that night, wouldn't
I
it?
know. And that's the thing, they look primed to be picked off in the playoff. Remember, Roy McGregor, this comment, and I really disagreed with it. After last year, 2 years in a row in the playoff, when we're Ross County along the lines, we can't be 11th again. And I'm like, at times think you're lucky to be 11th. Like, I think you do pretty well to punch it that way. Like that's.
Well, spend a few quid right now.
I know, I understand, but there's just more to play. I mean, you look at the different people. Even Malky Mackay's really good season. It was always going to be impossible to follow up. You'd never be able to do what Stephen Robinson's doing at St Mirren, which is great work. But clubs are just certain in better positions to do it more consistently. So I think Ross County will fall into the trapdoor. I think Dundee will just do enough to stay and reevaluate how they're doing things next season, and then Livingston look red hot to then cause the Staggies major issues. I think they're in trouble.
At the time of our filming, we'll get Livingston's second leg against Thistle to go ahead tonight. Yep. So if you're watching on Saturday, Sunday, Thistle are going to give Ross County a hell of a game after that great comeback against Livingston.
It was what game it was.
Or I mean, Livingston were so solid to see it out against. They're going to be.
They were good.
They're a nightmare prospect. I think. I think Livingston are the nightmare prospect for Dundee or Ross County. And I think if it's Livingston in that game, the only thing they go against them is they might be running out of legs by that point. Yep. But if anyone can do it, I think it's Livy. I mean, that is.
No one likes us. They don't care.
I watched them against St Johnstone in the cup, and I thought they were terrific. Not a lot between that kind of sides. They're just a battle hardened team. I think I can see them being back next year.
So the perception of Livingston is not many fans, tough to watch football, plastic pitch. What is your views? Are they bad for the top flight?
I think it's a bit of a myth. I think that's a bit of a myth. I think I've been watched a lot of them. I think they're a better football team than people give them credit for. Mm-hmm. They don't get me wrong; they're a nightmare to play against. Yep. And listen, we know they don't have the biggest fan base, and we know that plastic pitch, and I get all that stuff, right? But the most important thing is it's near my house, so it's getting back up.
So moving on,
it's only half an hour from my house. I'm fully on board with getting them back to the top flight because I'm up the road sharp for the games.
So we're heading through to Gorgie now. Well, someone is anyway. Derek McInnes. Wally, what do you think then? So he's a manager of stature, one of the most battle-hard managers, Scottish Premiership success everywhere he's been. Will he be a success at Hearts? Is this a right fit in the new world of analytics? And I know he's been earmarked and he fits a profile, but will Derek McInnes be a smash hit at Hearts?
Well, listen, I think the first question is what would success be at Hearts? And I think they've got to be slightly more realistic and think, right, they're not going to be challenging for the title in year one, right? So, but the success would be, first and foremost, competing for Europe, competing in the latter stages of cup competitions. Will that happen to Derek McInnes? I am convinced that will be the par. We're talking about Aberdeen shooting par this season, whatever. I think for Hearts under McInnes, I think you have them with the budget he'll have and the resources his hands. I think you'll have them competing in the top four and competing in the latter stages of cup competitions almost straight away. I do think that. So I think it's a very low risk appointment from Hearts. He'll get them organised. First of all, he'll stop them losing daft games, I think, and then he'll make them a force in that top four. From that point onwards, it's a bit of we don't really know because they're talking about this investment coming in from Tony Bloom. How much is that going in the first team squad? It's analytical thing. Listen, a wee bit is overplayed in this. I mean, it's not like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the big supercomputer. They go, oh, here's this magical player that pops out and there's a superstar. I mean, it's not quite like that. They use data, and that's how they sign players, right? But they don't just use data. The manager's got a say in all this as well. It's not like some kind of they're working some sort of AI subterfuge behind the scenes. It's some secret formula. They punch in and they finish them in the league. So we'll see how it goes. But I think they'll have them challenging in top four, top three again next season. It'll be a success. He's a good manager. We know he's a good manager. He's got the track record to prove it.
Two things just to take on for that. There's maybe two theories I feel that have been emanating the last couple of days. One is about, and it's a wee bit maybe degrading to Derek McInnes, that he's almost, this is Tony Bloom's, if he's rolling it. He's a Chris Hughton almost. That he's the kind of strong presence after maybe a couple of missteps when he came in at Brighton. Sammy Hippier was one of them.
Yeah.
He'll get them to a level, and then you can reevaluate at the level. I think someone like Derek McInnes isn't going to be a stopgap for anyone.
No.
The second one is Lon Shankland, someone who obviously worked at Aberdeen. Actually, was Scottish. I said the writers do last year. They joked about. I think they're at the time how much they probably get on better now. Shankland and McInnes.
I think Shankland was actually looking for a gig back then. He needed to run along.
I know exactly, but do you not feel that maybe there's not something tied here that Derek McInnes, who knows Lon Shankland well, would he not be looking for maybe a wee thumbs up that Shankland might be willing to commit for it? And he is the perfect player now for Derek McInnes than the two that probably worked together at Aberdeen. Could you see Lon Shankland signing in?
Yes, deal? I can. Yeah, more because I think his options are starting to get limited a wee bit.
Just a short term 1-2 year.
Yeah, but he's at that age anyway.
Okay.
He's got to a point in his career that I don't think he's going to get a 3 or 4 year contract somewhere with mega money now.
Yeah.
Good player. I think he should stay as well. I think it's part of a kind of bright new dawn.
And you don't think Derek McInnes will be playing him as a false 9 next season?
I wouldn't have thought so.
No.
I wouldn't have thought so. I've got my Jambo's colours on here, so I'm doing Gorgie way here. Listen, Hearts have went. Listen, we're talking about Hearts going to get a new manager, and they're exciting times. But they've whipped away the Kelly manager. Where do they go next? Some names are popping up already. Where do you think they should go?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Billy Bowie's been, I think he knows what he wants now at this point and how Kilmarnock should look. He'll take top 6 finishes. There's an element of this. There's only so many teams that can get that. Don't think he'd want as close as this season, and that's under Derek McInnes. So I think Stephen Naismith makes sense, but there's also risk attached there as well. I thought Naismith's full season at Hearts was very good, but then at times as well, I think there's an affliction he suffers that a lot of young managers maybe do as well, that they're learning on the job in the sense they're trying things out tactically. Is there a more rugged option that could maybe work? You know the style where there's been so many on and off the English Championship roundabout that maybe there's one or two have just maybe exhausted their options south of the border and could work. Have I got a name on me right now? Probably not, but I feel I would maybe err in the side of caution with this vacancy more than any other. I think you should just try and get it down the fairway and just try and play it safe as possible. I don't think this is the one for risking about. So I think the squad's made for a lot of solid pros that know how they play a certain way. I don't think it would be impossible to replicate what McInnes is, the template, and I think that's the way I would go. Normally I'd be the Tony Bloom way, looking in the Ukrainian second division for maybe something off the beaten track, but I think this time this is the type of job where I wouldn't do that. I think this is, you've got to play it safe, and maybe Naismith is the safe option. Who would you go for if you were making the decision?
I think it's time for somebody like, I think, David Martindale. I'd love to see David Martindale get a move. David Martindale this season, I think, is actually as impressive of a job he's done in the previous years when he kept Livingston in the top flight. Getting them, reorganising them, having gone through the relegation, and then getting back into the race and getting in, or at this point in time, getting the verge of a return. Yeah. But I think Kilmarnock, listen, Billy Bowie is a great owner for Kilmarnock. He's a good guy. Doesn't make kind of rash decisions. He backs his managers. Yep. I'd like to see Martindale get a chance. I think he's got a certain reputation, which I think is unfair, because I think he's a proper coach. I think he knows his football. I would love to see him in a different environment. Yeah. Listen, no offence to Livy, but I'd like to see him. I mean, Kelly are a fantastic club, great support. If they get that and do it right, you'll get backing, you'll get the punters out in their numbers. I would like to see David Martindale get a chance at something like Kelly.
It's a giveth and taketh away there for the Lions. You had them up,
now
their managers in Ayrshire.
But
I agree with that, and I think that fits that profile of. I don't think you can get much safer than David Martindale, really.
I think so.
I know he's at a relegation, but this Livingston,
I don't think you'd have any concerns about relegation under David Martindale. I think you would
top 6.
I think with Billy Bowie at backing in real, and I think he's. I think that would be an exciting one, genuinely. But I'd love to see him get a chance somewhere else and just see how he gets on a different environment. We know he is Mr. Livingston, but I'd love to see him get an opportunity, an environment like Rugby Park, which is a fantastic club. It's got a good ceiling. You can go places with that club, as we saw under Steve Clarke and we saw under Derek McInnes. So yeah, I don't think they should be too concerned about the future. We'll go bigger and bigger afield, and it's this week's coming up is the European finals week. We've got an all English Europa League final to look forward to. He says in inverted commas.
It's compelling TV.
I don't like English football.
Oh.
It's all money. No wonder they're in the final. They should be in the final as well. The two of the worst teams in England are in the final. That shows it all. But these two teams, Man United and Spurs, who have stunk the place out in England all season, have now got a shot at winning Europa League and getting into the Champions League. Is that right? I don't like it. I don't think that should be the reward to win the Europa League.
No,
I don't like it. I think that the Europa League you should win it and then defend it. If you don't, unless you qualify for the Champions League through your league.
Yeah.
I don't think that should be a place. But what do you think?
I take just a very slight detour because if our friends down at Canary Wharf capitalise on the success of Game On, they'll want you on as a guest star, so you might need to like English football for a few weeks.
They just want red hot opinions.
No.
So I can say it's rubbish all every week. Yeah,
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And but I really strongly disagree with Mr. Wenger and maybe Mr. Gannon by the sounds of it. It's just been a down year. The reward is a reward, and do you know what makes compelling TV?
Never used to be the reward.
I know, but the problem is, and this is a point that now you're almost reverse ferret, and they talk about isn't as good a competition it was, and maybe what made it good was the drop downs as well. That really bulked out the knockout stages.
Yeah.
When you take that away, it is a little bit thin when you get to the knockout, like the latter end of the tournament. But there's something magic about this, right? Tottenham and Manchester United at their lowest ebb, right? Battling it out. A manager we obviously know well, that vowed that he always wins in his second season. I've got a feeling it might just.
He didn't vow. He said a fact. I always win my second season.
That's true.
He didn't say I'm going to keep that going. He didn't say I will.
He came as close as
he didn't say I will win a trophy my second season.
Well, pretty much. He definitely intimated he would win this season. Right? It's been an absolute disaster. And even if you're the biggest backer of Ange Ball, it's been completely bust this season. He's actually looked like a guy without ideas, but then he comes alive. He's found this pragmatism in Thursday nights that's worked well. And Amorim is the most down. I remember his interview. Amorim, he was so full of life and confidence.
They beat it up, haven't they?
Oh, like he is honestly crestfallen. And there's something almost that the two elements, and promising trophy greatness that you maybe didn't, and then Man U with the worst barbecue in history on the third. Have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Getting 2 wee stubby bottles of beer and a sausage. There's something funny about that. About the storylines are non-stop.
Get yourself around to the Gannon Towers. You'll get a good barbecue at my place this weekend. That's for sure. Who's the pick a winner for it? Tell us who you win it.
Man United by a mile, 4-1 or something.
Really?
Oh yeah. I think Andrew set up for a fall.
Well, they've beat United 3 times this season.
No, but I think it's all there. Andrew will do it. He's preordained. Kulusevski's injury is one too many, and I think Man U might just play with a freedom that Tottenham won't have.
They somehow manage to win trophies all the time, man. Even
3-1. Let's not go 4-1. That's a wee bit out there.
I'm going to go with Spurs. He's going to win it. Ange's going to win it, and he's going to mic drop and walk out the door and quit. Say right, that's it. There's your trophy. I'm Offski.
That's got you. They're both. That's what I mean. That you can't lose.
That's what I think. Right. Further afield again. Nothing in sport. PGA Championships in America in full swing.
Oh, brilliant.
What do you think?
Love it. It's honestly it's a great question because I love this tournament.
Is the PGA Championship? This is going to. People are going to go, what are you talking about? Is it the best? Is it the best major?
Yes.
Why is it the best major?
Because I'll tell you a story.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yes, I think so.
Right, go for it.
Between 2012 and 2014, Rory won his 2 PGAs. In 2013, a man called Jason Duffner, right, won probably the most exciting round you'll ever see. It was magic, and his beautiful wife was carrying around his chewing tobacco next to him, right?
Right.
Just silly storylines, and it was always an opportunity for fringe guys in form to come to the fore. There's a wee joke as well, but it's the fact that tournaments like that have always been magic, and I think that's what makes it that there's certain players that just dominate at the Masters, right? They're made for the Masters. British Open I was talking like an American. The Open, I know exactly, the Scottish Open. Again, it just offers. I think it's very friendly to players in form as it moves about for tournament venue to venue each year, and that I always think
it's also technically the strongest lineup in the majors, because it's got 99 of the top 100 players in the world in this. It's usually as the top 100 that are competing. So it is. You don't have that kind of long line of former champions who are kind of duffing their way about in their 70s and 80s and all that stuff, and there's not the qualifiers. For me, though, I think the fact that it takes place on venues that are already using the tour, I think diminishes it slightly.
That's fair.
I think it feels more like a regular tour event. They don't tend to change anything about it. When you look at the Open, if you're watching the TV and tune in and you go, that's the Open. The Masters, obviously. The US Open, you'll see 2 feet high rough and players pulling their hair out. You know it's a US Open. PGA, I think, doesn't really have identity.
Well,
Doesn't have.
I get that, but the counter argument,
I find it hard to love it as much as other ones.
For the casual viewer,
I think it's the worst major. I genuinely think it's the worst major.
What I like about it is it's got a way of catching fire that others sometimes don't, and I think that is a casual golf fans' problem. I think sometimes in the Masters it can be brilliant. Like Rory laughs in the face of that, the drama of the last one, but too often it's not. I feel you get these fun third and fourth rounds in the PGA that are memorable. I can remember Jason Duffner, who probably, I don't even Jason Duffner knows who Jason Duffner is, in 2025. So I think there could be compelling storylines that you just, if you stick with it, you'll be rewarded.
Yeah, I think it will be compelling viewing, but I still think it's the fourth on the list of the majors. I think.
Well, the PGA are our new sponsors, so I just thought.
I definitely think it's the best. It's the best. It's definitely the best major out there. It surpasses all of them.
Well, that's good.
Not saying we're available for hire, but but anyway, listen. On that note, I'm talking about Masters. We'll stick our green jackets back on and get out in the. I'll take them off. It's sunny outside. Time to pack up the circus.
Yes.
These couple of clowns back to us and get the barbecues out. Listen, thanks for watching and listening. This week's Game On. You can get us in the usual places: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you like what you hear, as I mentioned earlier on, leave a wee comment. Either way. Listen, we'll be back to do it all again next week. In the meantime, wait to slap on our Factor 50 and enjoy the rest of this heat wave. So thanks for watching.